Guys, welcome to another video. So what I'm going to do right now is basically just a rundown of the tier list, very roughly, right? So when it comes to some of these green stats, the purples and the sort of darker purples, blues, whatever you see, um, it doesn't reflect entirely on what they do, but I thought with the recent changes, it's good to have a rough idea on where units sit. And when it comes to just the outright sort of indication, when it comes to these green stats and the tips, whatever the notes on the right hand side, as you see here, even if they're incorrect, I thought it would be good to share because now it's been a good bit of a while. So I thought I'll share exactly what I believe, as well as Appans and Junior. We just done some very basic tweaking in regards to the previous tier list to play some heroes and to determine where they exactly sit. So um, we'll start here up the top. So basically, it's not been too much of a shift in regards to mages from the recent patch, and well, patch, update, whatever, the nerfs, buffs, whatever went across. When it comes to the mages, it's been mostly buffs, and for some of the heroes, the runes do play a bit of an impact, and therefore they may be upped a little high in the tier list. So maybe they were in the bottom of tier two, now they're on top of tier two, and it just depends on the runes and the changes that came through. So basically for the mages, Yulv is still sitting pretty much at the top. Initially, my perception was that he'll take a bit of a bigger hit. He basically had nerfs on most of the aspects of his kit. However, he's still performing really well, and as a mage, just yeah, great. Still sits at the top of the tier list. I don't think we will be taking him down any lower than tier 1, and at the very push maybe tier 2. It just really depends on how well you can utilize Osh with his critical chance requirement. Henceforth, why he's tier 2, basically. So Osh, however you say it, he has great damage. That's undeniable. And when it comes to his CC, that's also really, really good. It does run off of your critical chance, which means if you've maxed the hammer, sitting at 15.5% chance for crit rate, as well as maybe had the 7% on the legendary when it comes to your runes. He's sitting at high enough crit rate to make great use of his critical chance, and therefore he does a lot more for his team. Sinclair had some changes, quite significant. However, um, he's still performing well. Like there's no doubt about it. Sinclair sitting at tier 1, that's just not out of the question. He's there, he's up there, so is Yulv and Sinclair and Osh. All three of them are up there. They're perfect for their roles as mages. They do some damage, CC, or if they're support, they're supporting. They're just overall great, great heroes. Now we move over to the tier 2. Milton basically gained a bit more power, whatever word you want to use, agency. Milton with his kit, which was basically unchanged. I believe all four of his abilities were unchanged. However, the runes made a bit of a change, which allows for the Ember rune as well as the extra damage towards afflicted enemies, which is what he provides. Basically, he does a lot more damage. So you're looking at his damage going up by at least one. Potentially even two. Really, he's just great. Runes basically took over. Guild Tech doesn't play much of a part, but guilds, the runes make a big difference. And when it comes to doing loads of damage, Milton is there, right? Milton does a lot of damage, and as you can see, like if we're bringing up by two and then talking about runes, maybe giving one, or even three to be fair, because that's just the thing he does. He's rivaling Yule when it comes when it comes to the damage, so he's improved. Gisela went up, not in terms of her changes, but mostly through blessing, because everybody's skill is maxed out at 3 as long as you have him high enough in the blessing temple. Therefore, she's just generally strong. You're looking at still not the best damage. If you line up the enemies and you hit them all right, yeah, sure, she may do more, but generally not as much. However, the support aspect of her with the CC and all that just coming in together. It does a lot. Arches is an interesting one. Right now, he's at the bottom of tier 2, but I would argue maybe he's at the middle of tier 2, so Gisela down, because his damage share ability, as well as I think he does HP damage based on his HP, which does still do a lot in PvP. It's a lot. It's strong. It's by no means weak. He's just a much better hero in my opinion. So do look out for him. If you have his copies available, I'd recommend leveling him up. He's a very strong mage. He's more of a support mage. If you have a main DPS dealer, he can do a lot when it comes to separating that damage, equaling it out between your heroes. So yeah, overall good. And now we get to tier 3, and these heroes are pretty much unchanged. Some of them received some nerfs in damage and had some minor changes to the way they perform, but overall, nothing too different. I would basically say Ragnar, Primo, Frode, if you level them up, they will still do their role. They're okay, but they're not great. They're sort of in that middle section of it, not even the middle to be fair, just the bottom of it. However, when it comes to the mages, what I will say is mages is one of the main classes of heroes where you could argue that all of them are at least okay. But when we're comparing things like Milton to Primo, Ragnar to Gisela, Arches to Frode, there is a difference between them, and the amount they provide for the team does differ between them. Therefore, you know, we find it easier to identify these as the tier 3. Don't pay attention 100% to these, like I've said before. These still need to be changed. We need to evaluate them as well as some of this description. But when it comes to this patch, I thought it would be a good idea to get some of this basic information out to you guys. So, next. Moving on next to Rangers. This is one of the tiers where a lot of the older players of the game will find maybe a bit interesting. But for new players, basically, it still stands where Felix is still the best ranger in the game. He's had some nerfs. Basically, every aspect of his kit was brought down by a step or two. However, he's still really, really strong, and his damage is still up there. I wouldn't say that this aspect of saying he's a 10 damage dealer is out of question. Celia went up by a bit. So she didn't get too many changes. However, just generally she's a strong damage dealer, and I wouldn't discount her. You know, when you're talking about providing CC and support, these things have a worth on their own, and you know, just generally she does well. I'll say she's really worth it, but not far away from her is Tell actually. So Tell had a big nerf when it came to his fourth ability, right? Things were shifted around, it wasn't the best, and a lot of people sort of discounted Tell as a hero after the update. However, he's still packing a punch. He's still doing well for what his role is. Basically, just brought back as sort of a CC hero. He's just taken a few steps back, so we're talking about maybe sitting around the 8 in terms of CC. His damage is still there. That's not. I don't think that's changed at all. Actually, I think it's just the fourth skill had a bit of a change. But even if I'm wrong, he's still a really good hero. And when it comes to the ease of acquiring Tell, we've we mentioned here that he's easy to acquire due to wishlist, and that still is the case. If you are looking to use your ranges, let's say you have a Liv, Rennie, or Diana, and one of the other heroes you want to use, you're looking at the potentials. Tell is still a really strong hero. You're looking at him pumping out, 8 million, 10 million damage, easy. As long as he doesn't get targeted, he's just not as useful overall as a sort of a team player. He's just more of a very much like a glass cannon, doesn't have anything to protect himself, but he still does a lot of damage. Then sort of this mid section of heroes. So Diana really wasn't changed. She's pretty much the same as she was before. Sort of mediocre damage, but she has some support, some CC. That's not changed. Liv lost some stuff around crit rate. Rennie lost the some part of her attack speed reduction. But overall, she still does great. All of these heroes, basically the midsection of rangers, I would say, you know what? If any of these heroes you have plenty of copies of, go ahead, level them up. They are really, really useful. It's not a waste. And some would argue that Rennie, Liv, Diana can pretty much be thrown around anywhere in this list in tier 2. Diana sort of just takes a bit of an edge being the first in that list. However, Liv and Rennie, it's sort of a back and forth, so I wouldn't pay too much attention to where they sit in this list here. And Darby is okay. So in the previous update, she was reduced in a part of her skill, buffed in another part of her skill. Brooke was unchanged, and Edward had the same thing of where part of his skill was changed, but the other part was buffed and the other part was nerfed. It's just nothing really made it too different for these because in Edward's case, taking some damage from one aspect, putting it in another, didn't make a big impact. For Darby, same thing. Whatever she lost, it's not a big deal. She still sort of sits at that top of tier 3, and there's people that argue that she sits in tier 2, and I wouldn't say they are too far off. As you can see, the support is there and the damage is there. When you're talking about like sort of pure stats, you can say that Darby would be higher than Diana, so the damage is higher by 1. Again, these are not accurate 100% because we need to rework these. However, when you're looking at that, you can say she is. But, you know, it's the inconsistency see that makes a big difference, right? So when you look at if any character has a chance of them doing something, that does put their worth down as a hero. Because if you're looking at anything like PvE, Guild War, PvP, sorry, or Guild War, and they have anything that's inconsistent, it's harder. And Liv is a bit higher because she has 3 shots to try and get that to happen, the CC. However, with Darby, it's not the case. So, there's a different aspect. We have looked at different ways that these heroes can perform, and this is sort of a rough idea on where they should sit. However, like I said, we've basically got the order as we believe at the very least correct, right? We've got the order of the heroes correct at the very least, and therefore, if you're looking at the rough estimate on how strong a hero is, this is a good way to look at it. Anyway, moving on. Priests. Alright, Priest is a very interesting one. Don't mind the color differences. We'll sort that out a little bit later down the line. However, let's take a look at Priests. So priests are a very interesting one, right? So when it comes to general healing, which is basically what you look at in a priest, the tier 1 is pretty cut and dry when it comes to who's in it. So we have Olivia, who is a very, very strong healer, right? And the support is amazing. However, you also have Margaret, who's a really strong healer, and the support is amazing. I'll say with some of these changes, you can look at Margaret being a bit higher in the support tier, but she is great. So her healing is off the charts. She heals over time due to with the heroes she's generally playing on the field, and you're looking at her revive, and you're looking at her big healing. Margaret is just one of the best healers. So if you're somebody who's not going to pay a lot of money and you're looking for a strong priest, Margaret is the one to level up. And that's pretty much the way to look at it. So Olivia is just a strong hero. I think she has dispels, damage reduction. She just does a lot. However, Margaret is pretty much up there. She can heal for a lot. She has a revive, and if you shift the bonuses and the pluses of both of these heroes, they sort of even each other out. So Margaret and Olivia both strong tier 1s when it comes to priests. Flora had some softer nerfs recently. Her healing is still very, very high. Her support is still very, very high. She has a soft reusable resurrection. some damage in her kit, which is quite rare for the first tiers. Basically, Olivia has no damaging abilities, and Margaret has lost her damaging abilities. But they got it up in healing, so that's fine. When it comes to shifts in power, I'm completely happy with making priests more priest-like and therefore able to support the rangers, assassins, or that's it, right? Rangers, assassins, mages. There you go, mages. I keep forgetting about mages. It's been a while since I considered mages, but yeah, supporting them to do their thing is important. Suvir is actually, I will say, she's very top of tier 2. If you get a lot of copies of Suve, I would say she could be tier 1. That's something that we may need to have a discussion around. She's a very strong hero. But yeah, she's not gonna leave this. She's basically at the very least of super high tier 2. So if you have her, she's worth it. She's great. And having more than one healer in a team is by far, not a bad thing. By any means, just if you can have two strong healers, do it, because healers are very strong in the game. Right, so Waga is an interesting one. So Waga was essentially considered to be tier 3. She was very niche, not really able to do what she needs to do as a priest, but some changes followed, which basically allowed her to consistently provide the energy requirement. She heals. She just does quite a lot more. So I would say that when it comes to these stats here, these should be different. I'll sort these out after, but I just wanted, like I said, it's a preemptive before we make these final changes and publish them, to sort of talk about the fact that Waga does heal a lot more. She supports a lot more. She's just a way better hero than she was prior. Even I think her energy rate went up by like 100. Everything just jumped up a bit. And Grigor is still as well a very strong hero. By no means is he a pushover where you just don't level him. I think Grigor provides massive buffs. He's got healing on two of his abilities. I think attack boost as well. Strong hero. He's yeah. Basically, similar to, I think it was, what was it? No rangers, priests. There's no, anyway, this may be the only thing I can't remember now, but basically for priests, there's no one that's really bad, which means that if you level any of these priests, they will all do well. All the legendaries are good. Grigor does his job, Waga does her job, Suvir does her job, Flora does her job, Margaret and Olivia, they all do great in what they need to do. But it really depends, right? So if you were to run two priests and you're looking at something like Margaret and Grigor, both are a great combo. You're looking at Suve and Waga, maybe not as good of a combo. They're more supporting your allies, however, not as much healing. If you're looking at Olivia and Suve, a great combo, a massive healer, support, another support, still mediocre heals at the very least. Um, yeah, there's no bad priests at the moment. There's nothing that really makes me go, oh yeah, that's bad. That's bad. No, that's not the case. All right, assassins. So assassins, Ramil and Gar. Both of them are amazing. Ramil has his shield, the invincibility, which is great. Gar has his invisibility, and drops his aggros, which functions in a similar fashion. Both of them do very high damage. I would say at this moment, when you look at the chart in terms of damage, they're both quite the same. When you're looking at support, same thing. Just yeah, both great assassins. If you have them or have the ability to get them, they're both good choices. Still, Terrence is the top of tier 1. Oh, sorry, tier 2, not tier 1. Oh, I wish. Anyway, so Terrence is top of tier 2. Still a very strong assassin. He's still basically kept his damage. Nothing's too different. The healing did shift, but it's not enough to completely throw him out of the top of tier 2 or even being in tier 1. Yeah, so the healing is there. The tankiness is still there. It obviously depends on who you're facing. If you're facing some characters that are able to inflict multiple attacks in a single blow, that does make a big big difference. However, he's still up there. He's still a really, really strong assassin. Some new additions. So you have Sota and Barley, both of which are basically up in the tier lists. Um, so Barley has increased damage, survivability. He heals more. He's just a good character. And Soda, the damage is there. I know he has a stun now, so the CC has gone up. So yeah, he's not bad at all. I think he still suffers from some of the aspects that were previously the issue about survivability. But when you throw any crowd control into a character, or you throw any extra damage in, it does bring them up the list quite a bit. So he's up there. He's not bad. And Bella is an interesting one. So you could argue, right? You could argue that Bella is a tier 2, and I wouldn't be too far off saying that yes, Bella is indeed tier 2. Um, that she's got nerfed. I think in the recent update she got nerfed in every single fashion in her kit. In terms of what she provides, I would say yeah, tier 2 is quite easy to agree on. Tier 3, top of tier 3 is there as well. I'd say if you have a Bella and you have plenty of copies, you won't be disappointed. Which is hard to say about a lot of characters, when saying like, oh yeah, level this one, you won't be disappointed. Well, you may be. But with Bella, it's an easier one to say, yeah, you know what, Bella is up there, she's a strong hero, and even if we do rank her in the tier 3, when you consider some of the CC and the fact that it's preemptive, so before the fight it just pops, you could argue that Sota and Bella are in about the same sort of caliber, but I'd say Rangers is fairly similar to Priest, where there's no one that's really in that third tier. Beelzebub had some nerfs recently. He does do damage over time. There is CC in his kit, and the percentage chance does let him down in terms of how well he can perform. However, he still can do his job. As you can see, prior we did rank his damage around the level of Terrence, so he does do a lot for the team. But none of them are really that bad. I would say if you are planning to invest in a hero from the assassin side, and you've got yourself 3 copies of Sota or 4 copies of Sota, Bella, Beelzebub, Barley, Terrence, all these heroes are really viable to take further into the game. They'll do their roles. However, for some of them, you may have to shift your team around to match the sort of the downsides of what they have. So if they're a little less tanky but they do a lot of damage, you're looking at using something like Margaret to maybe support them, or maybe 2 priests to sort of keep their health up as they dish out that damage. You just got to make that change. All right, moving on. So I'm gonna just do a quick vape. All right. So we've got to move on to Warriors, which is an interesting one, right? So we thought a bit about it, and when it comes to general Warrior roles, Lionel is still pretty much at the top. Despite the fact that he lost 3 seconds on his invulnerability recently, he's still invulnerable, right? Like, he's invulnerable to damage, he's able to withstand what comes at him, and therefore he's still up there, right? So in some cases, when it comes to later campaign levels, you're looking at very strong opposition, and therefore you require that tankiness, and he's just there, right? So he's really, 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 really capable. So it wouldn't be too difficult to say that Lionel is tier 1, top 1. But that gap has sort of decreased. So we're looking at Eric now, and Eric has had some changes where he lost some of his survivability in parts of his kit and gained it in other parts. Overall, he's not too different. He basically goes into an all-out, full-on tank stage in his whenever his health goes beyond a certain percentage. He can't cast his skills, whatever, but he becomes tankier. He is still really, really strong. His ability is still really, really strong, and I wouldn't discount him. Basically, Eric is still the second best tank you can have, apart from Lionel. But it really does depend on what content you are doing. When it comes to Endless, you can talk about Eric being stronger as long as he can withstand the initial attack, even with the help of something like Margaret. But he's still really, really powerful. Maybe he's weaker in the late stages of campaign. You have to. I think you'll realize that yourself if you get to the stage where it is more difficult. You're looking at Katarina, so she had some changes, which I feel like really does impact how you play the game. Really, so if you have Katarina, any heroes that do AOE damage will perform better because she brings enemies in, right? And she builds up her block. And if you can improve that with runes, great. You may do even better with her. I feel like she's a stronger tank and worth, if you have her, really worth leveling up. So I think her tankiness went up. So as you see here, with this rate, that will be a bit higher. I don't think the damage has really changed, nor has the healing. However, basically she's just a stronger hero. Um, I don't remember, to be fair. Like I don't remember every skill right now. We looked through them before. I don't recall everything, but Katarina is just a stronger hero. We're looking at now Cardalin for tier 2, Yasuko and Renaud. Um, Renaud? Yeah, anyway. Who cares about the bear? Anyway, so Cardalin. Cardalin is still a very, very strong hero. Very, very tanky. Has a little bit of CC and some healing with his self revive, basically, with some healing built in. Damage is okay. The percentages are quite nice. As a general tank, he does the job. Nothing that's crazy and exceptional. Eventually, he will fail to do his role. Aside from Endless, if you're talking about the normal campaign, yes, it will be a problem, but he's still good. He's still really, really good. Yasuko, same thing. They buffed up his survivability. The damage is up, higher than Cardalin. However, the tankiness is still maybe a little bit lower. We talk about CC, that still exists. The healing is still there. A good hero overall. I wouldn't say that he's bad. If you have him, you can level him. Still strong and really, really good in PvP. So you've got to sort of consider that. So like Katarina and Yasuko could be amazing, uh, you know, in PvP when it comes to combining with other heroes. When it comes to something like AOE for Katarina, so you sort of just have to sort of think of the teams and where they will shine, and you will sort of see the full potential of that hero. Renaud, he's an interesting one. I don't think he had too much of a change. I think there was a cooldown added to his healing, the fourth ability. No, regardless, I think his fourth ability had some cooldown added. I think his CC now has uh, no impact. If someone does a CC move, he's got CC reduction. He just negates it. Nothing too different. Just basically a generally strong tier 2 tank. Has a little bit of damage, has a decent tankiness, has some CC, some healing. It's just sort of a all around, but nothing is that great. Nothing is like that step above of what you need to actually get through some stages. And now we're looking at Patras, Norton, and Isla and Seth. So Patras got a bit tankier. I think in some cases he may be a bit surprising. However, he still kind of sucks. I will say so. Before Patras was pretty bad. It was about the stage of Isla, but he got a lot more tankier, and the block, CC, and just general the ability is good. Norton is not bad at all. He does his job. He has a stun that I think that was increased. The mark got increased to 100%, so he can stun more often. Isla's okay. Seth is garbage. I think Seth needs to be changed. He has no CC, no healing, and the change that happened recently was to remove a part of his tankiness and give him more damage. Right, so his damage is bad, his survivability is bad, and Seth is a joke. Right. Anyway, I will say before. So, in terms of this, the green is the general base metric. The pink refers to runes in the build, so that's the team composition as well as the runes in the game. And this is talking about guild tech focus, which right now is a bit iffy. Crowd control for CC, PvE is player versus environment, PvP is player versus player, GW is guild war, and AoE is area of effect. I thought we'd just say these just in case you guys didn't follow some of the things that I said. However, that sort of breaks down the I will say it's a rough tier list right now of the heroes. Um, a big thank you to Junior Run. Me and Junior reorganized some of the heroes as well as Wawa. Um, we talked about what can be different and what has gone stronger and what has gone worse. Um, but for some of the text and the green parts and the purple parts, those are things that we need to still sort out. So look out for that when that comes. Again, the game has a Discord server which you can join through the game. So please do join. Please do say hello. Um, we are, spending, the next couple of days still trying to figure this all out. There's no real way for us to test exactly how well these things perform, and there's heroes that we have not all three of us, all four of us, if you even figure, that haven't even leveled up these heroes to see how well they perform. So it's hard for us to test. We're trying to find everywhere we can. We're speaking to a lot of people, a lot of high-level people that've been playing for a long time to see how well they believe a certain hero does. But until that happens, we don't have a concrete 100% tier list. However, what I've just spoke about now is a very rough and very likely the correct overview of the characters. But if I am wrong, if we are wrong, do not hate us. We are trying to help the community by figuring out what is good and what is bad. So just make these choices on your own. Don't look at us for everything because there's only so many things we can say. We can look at percentages, but maybe you find some good interaction between heroes that no one has spotted, and you know it is what it is. Anyway, thank you. Thanks again. Hope you guys had fun at this overview. It's a long video. I can tell. I think I started 5 to 1 and now it's 5:23, so I think it's like 27, 28 minutes at the very least. Ugh. But yeah, take care, and I'll see you guys maybe in the Discord. Do let me know if you've seen the video. Just send me a message. Just title it at me and then say cabbage, and that will let me know that you saw it all the way through to the end and you saw what my last message was. Anyway, take care. Goodbye.